Hey, 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 happy Thursday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, shockingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard. Tonight is Thursday. Man, now I don't even know what date it is. Zoinks! No, I do. Tonight is Thursday, October 26th, 2023. This is live stream 979. If you're not overly familiar with this show, you've probably already realized. Certainly not taking anything too serious around here. No, it is light and fluffy. That's right. We're not engaged in any sort of rocket surgery or anything of that nature. So welcome aboard. So normally what I do is I share the latest in tabletop gaming news, and then we either take a first look at a board game or role-playing game product, or every once in a while I'll share a live review here on the show. But tonight, we are going to dive on in and take a first look at Cults of RuneQuest Mythology from Chaosium Inc. This is actually a system agnostic book that deals with the mythology of Glorantha, the RuneQuest setting. So this is part of the Cults of RuneQuest series. This is volume number 4. We are going to dive on in and take a peek at this in just a bit. Now, if you're tuning in live because you want to see this first look, I do want to mention we tackled the tabletop gaming news first around here. So if you are watching live, just kick back, relax, put your feet up. We'll get to it. We'll get to it in about 35 minutes or so. But of course, if you happen to be watching this 30 minutes or more after the stream ends, there will be timestamps. So you'll be able to jump ahead if you want, bypassing all the cool tabletop gaming news I've got tonight. But still, you can use those timestamps to get right to the first look and page through. Now, I also should point out that, what the hell? Just some big ass bug just flew by me. I'm like, what the? It's weird because it's like in the mid 60s, actually high 60s earlier today. So strangely enough, the bugs that disappeared when it got a little colder in the Chicago area have reemerged in the past couple of days. Anyway, I was going to mention that those timestamps might be located right there in the time, what is it called? Timeline. Man, it's a weird night tonight. It's like, I'm all like discombobulated. It's been a long day. It's been a very long day. Anyway, those timestamps will be located in the timeline of the video, depending on the device you might be watching this on. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you will not find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Lastly, this is a live show, so that means there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least 48 hours in order to take part in chat. Yet another way that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, maybe you've got a question, a comment, maybe there's something about Cults of RuneQuest mythology you want a closer look at, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. First out the gate tonight is the Motor City Madman. Yes, the Madman is with us, wishing everyone a happy Friday Eve. Although it is, as the Madman points out, Friday for some folks who do hang out and chat, because they're over the timeline there. Flaming here on yet another chat moderator is also with us, as is Roger Prudhomme. And I'll take a guess, we might have a trio of chat moderators. Sarah D might be hanging with us as well. All right, so I'm going to jump right on into the news because last night's show was almost 2 hours long. It was like an hour 57 and change. Tonight's show is not going to be that long. Mark my words, it will not. Currently up on the GMT Games P500 listing is the third volume of Fields of Fire. That's right, it is the Parachute Regiment, which I got to point out, Fields of Fire is a really good game. Rather complex game, though. It is a solitaire game, too. Here's the latest. Fields of Fire Volume 3 sees the long-awaited introduction of the British to Ben Hull's masterpiece of tactical infantry command. From the burning streets of Arnhem to war-torn Helmand Province, Afghanistan, in this new standalone volume from the team behind Fields of Fire Deluxe Edition, we follow the 2nd Battalion of the Parachute Regiment, commonly known as 2-Para, across over 60 years of military history. As Britain's elite airborne infantry, the Parachute Regiment are used as spearhead troops and are often inserted behind enemy lines by parachute or, in more modern times, by helicopter. Lightly equipped to the nature of their insertion, they need all their training, resilience, and fighting spirit to survive until other units can fight their way to them. So what's in Volume 3 that's new? Well, when the company radios fail, make do with more uniquely British options like bugles. Use unique British weaponry, such as Piat anti-tank weapons during World War II, and vehicles like Scorpions and WMIK in the more modern theaters of the Falklands and Afghanistan. There are urban defensive missions. Fight amongst rubble and fires and try to hold on to your pocket by whatever means necessary as the enemy attacks, utilizing a completely new urban offensive enemy hierarchy chart. Experience the constraints of modern-day combat as you try to determine whether groups of people and incoming vehicles are hostile or merely civilians going about their lives. Collapsing buildings, an enemy helicopter attack, special forces, minesweeping duties, night assaults, and much, much more are included. There are 3 campaigns: Arnhem, 1944, Falklands, 1982, and Afghanistan, 2008. Ben Hull's Fields of Fire series is a solitaire game system that's designed to depict command and control of a rifle company in various conflicts of the 20th and 21st century. The game is card-based and utilizes 2 decks to play. The action deck, which replaces dice and many of the tables found in other tactical games, is used to control combat, orders, and various activity attempts. The terrain deck is based on a specific region and is used to build a map for the various missions your company must perform. The units of the company are counters representing headquarters elements, sections, weapon teams, forward observers, individual vehicles, or aircraft. Missions can be played as standalone games or strung together into a campaign in which the player must manage experience and replacements. A single mission can be played in about 2 to 3 hours. Fields of Fire Volume 3, The Parachute Regiment, is for one player, ages 14 and up. As I just mentioned, each scenario plays in 2 to 3 hours, and you can pre-order for the special price of $87. The eventual MSRP is going to be $125. This game has made the cut. It's got over 700 pre-orders. As I mentioned earlier, just a few moments ago, I should say, this is a really interesting game system. It is not super easy to grasp, especially if you're kind of a newcomer to war games, but it's really, really well done. And as you can see, you don't have, hexes, and you don't have, chits and counters on hexes. You have these cards that represent the terrain, and that makes up your map. It's pretty nicely done. So by all means, check it out. I've got some video that I have done for, I think it was the first volume of Fields of Fire, which, if memory serves, I think featured the U.S. Marines. Marius Smith is with us, as is Zach McKinney. So welcome to you both. So Marius says, hi, I've got a question for when we get to RuneQuest, what is the play structure? Hex crawl, dungeon crawl, scene to scene, all the above? None of it. Actually, Marius, the RuneQuest is pretty much the same sort of play style as Call of Cthulhu, if you've played Call of Cthulhu. So it is, I guess, essentially we would say it is scene-based, but as with most of the basic role-playing game adventures out there for Call of Cthulhu, RuneQuest, and so forth, they're not always very linear. So, but it doesn't have a hex crawl aspect to it. Depending on the adventure, maybe a little bit of dungeon crawling, but for the most part, if you are familiar with the sort of format that you would find, even to be honest, old AD&D adventures, it's kind of along those lines. So it is kind of a throwback. It's not like a story game kind of system or anything along those lines. So hopefully that, answered your question a little bit. Kathy Evans has joined us in chat. Good to see you, Kathy. Moving right along. Right now, you can save 30% on the horror role-playing adventure, The Halloween Babysitter, from Surgeryhead and Exalted Funeral. I've got the skinny on this tale for the squishy role-playing game. They expected a party. What they got was a nightmare. It's Halloween night. Your parents dropped you off at a friend's house. You were promised candy, costumes, trick-or-treating, but you were abandoned and left in the care of a very unusual babysitter. She wears a tattered, soiled Halloween costume and never speaks, but her heavy breathing and the sound of her filthy boots resound through the house. She has given you all chores that must be completed and rules to follow. Don't make a sound. Don't make trouble. Behave yourself. If you fail to follow her rules, she will open up her toolbox, and then the hunt will begin. Can you escape, finish her chores, and make her leave? Can you keep your cool as her presence causes your house to become more and more haunted? Or will you die and become a ghost haunting your friends, doomed to fade into a strange world full of predatory spirits and shocking secrets? Can you survive The Halloween Babysitter? This 28-page A5 saddle stitch softcover with PDF is currently on sale for $12 over at Exalted Funeral. Madman says, don't make trouble. I'd be doomed. Doomed. Zach says it sounds like The Dare. Yes, the Call of Cthulhu adventure. Third-party Call of Cthulhu adventure. Flaming Huron says, bad babysitter. Obviously, I'm taking a guess that this is probably an adventure that's kind of skewed because you're a kid. So it's the kid point of view of seeing, weird things. But I thought this looked kind of interesting. And you can grab the PDF right away with this. So you could be running this for Halloween. As I mentioned, this is for the squishy horror role-playing game. There is a quick start for it. It is over on DriveThruRPG, and I believe it is free, if I remember correctly. If you get the quick start from Exalted Funeral, you do have to pay for it. But I think the quick start is actually a physical softcover like this. So, kind of interesting. Caught my eye, and $12 for what sounds like a pretty bizarre horror adventure. Not too shabby. Moving right along, we kind of discussed this bundle last night, but Cubicle 7 Entertainment and Humble Bundle have teamed for an excellent money-saving offer on Warhammer-infused role-playing adventure. I've got the deets on the deal. And unfortunately, I actually do not happen to have the slides for it. I know, isn't that weird? Totally zoned on. I tell you, it's been super busy today. If you have been following the show, we've had issues with the water heater. We have issues with the furnace, issues with my father's rear brakes. It's like we just finished the deck. That took a few weeks. Anyway, but I did want to share this news piece with you because whether you're partial to Space Marines, Stormcast Eternals, or good old greenskins and high elves, this bundle of Warhammer pen and paper RPGs from Cubicle 7 will bring eternities of adventure to your table. If you seek adventure in the 41st century, Warhammer 40K Wrath and Glory will immerse your role-playing game group in the galaxy's grimdark battles and heretical nightmares. If your tastes run classic, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay puts the entirety of the beloved old world at your fingertips. And if you want to explore a realm of high fantasy, magitech, and post-apocalyptic horror, Warhammer Age of Sigmar Soulbound invites you to forge your group's destiny in a gods-shattering realm. Pay what you want for over 20 books, supplements, game aids, and more resources for these 3 thrilling Warhammer role-playing game systems. Do want to point out, at the $18 donation level, you'll score all 22 PDFs, which include 7 Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay releases, including the starter set, 7 Warhammer 40K Wrath and Glory releases, including the starter set, which the physical starter set hasn't even come out yet. I believe that's a Q1 2024 release. You can also get 8 Warhammer Age of Sigmar Soulbound releases for $18, which, to be honest with you, I think is less than the cost of one of those starter sets in PDF. That is a smoking deal. Now, these savings do run through November 9th, and your donation will benefit Children's Health Ireland. Flaming Heron says it's raining Cubicle 7 bundles. Doctor Who bundle of different media, including RPGs, dropped on Humble Bundle as well. Zach McKinney points out it's a good deal on their whole line. Ooh, I say it's more than a good deal. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4E is the standout from the Humble Bundle. There would be people out there who would argue with you. I wouldn't, because I really like Whiffrip. But I know there are quite a few people. In fact, I saw comments on last night's video when I was taking a peek at Warhammer 40K Imperium Maledictum from Cubicle 7 Entertainment. And there were some comments about people talking about how they love Wrath and Glory, that they dig it to death. So, and I know some people really dig Soulbound as well. Anyway, great deal to jump on board. Like I said, just one of those starter sets in PDF probably would run you about the $18, $17.99, something like that. So keep that in mind. Moving right along to a news piece that I actually do have images for. Deep Magic Volumes 1 and 2 are available for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons from my friends over at Kobold Press. Here's the scoop. Deep Magic Volume 1, Unlimited Power, Remastered. No matter how you slice it, magic is at the heart of fantasy, and nothing makes that more real than a massive tome of spells. Deep Magic collects, updates, tweaks, and expands on years of magic from Kobold Press, with more than 600 new and revised spells and other options. This tome is not just for wizards, warlocks, and sorcerers. Deep Magic also expands the horizons of what's possible for bards, clerics, druids, and even rangers and paladins. It offers something new for every spell-casting class. Plus, it includes the brand new Theurge class. With these new spells and options, your characters, or villains, can become masters of chaos magic, frost magic, or illumination magic. Seek out hidden colleges and academies of lost lore, and learn new runes, hieroglyphics, and cantrips to break down the walls of reality, or maybe just bend them a little. Deep Magic contains nothing but magic from start to finish. Then we've got Volume 2 of Deep Magic, Master 400 new spells for 5th edition. Deep Magic Volume 2 is a sequel to the spell-filled, you guessed it, Deep Magic Volume 1, and further expands on that volume. Volume 2 features over 400 new spells and more. Whether you're a game master or player, Deep Magic Volume 2 has something magical in store for you. You can score both these hardcover volumes in a slipcase set for an MSRP of $129.99. You can get each volume separately for an MSRP of $59.99, or you can score both PDFs for $59.99, or you can get them individually over at DriveThruRPG for $29.99. We'll also point out that my friends over at Kobold Press are sending along I believe it is going to be the slipcase set. So we will get to dive on into volumes 1 and 2 of Deep Magic in the very, very near future. Sweet. Very, very nice. All righty then. That is it for the news tonight. Zip through that fairly quickly. Even though I didn't have slides for the... And it was funny. I started that news piece and all of a sudden I thought to myself, oh, shit. I didn't do the images for that news story. Hey, at least I realized it and I wasn't just sitting there talking and then, oh, let's move on to the next scene. Oh, hey, look. I'm talking about this Humble Bundle and you're taking a look at images from last night's news. Sweet. It happens. It happens. I'm not trying to make excuses because, like I said, I'm a little discombobulated anyway today. I actually started putting the show together about an hour and a half ago. Well, I was also preparing dinner for my dad and I. So it's like, okay. All right. Warren Rawlings is with us, asking any chance they have enough material for a book of war and warfare for the martial classes, or maybe a book of war and skill for both the warriors and the expert classes. As far as Kobold Press, I know they've recently had, I think they're only in PDF though. They've recently had some new like warrior class supplements come out, but I'm taking a guess they're probably 30 pages. And I want to say the series is called Book of the Blade or Books of the Blade, something along those lines. So that is something that you might take a peek at. Kevin says they're sure that's coming at some point, probably after they release Tales of the Valiant. Jack Hanks is with us. Good to see you, Jack. Thanks for joining us tonight. Looks like we've got a nice chat rocking and rolling. All right, so pretty quick zip through the news there. Like I said, if you tuned in after the show started, last night's show was almost 2 hours long. That is not going to be the case tonight. Boy, I got carried away on that show, huh? Although I got to say, just that first look into Warhammer 40K Imperium Maledictum, I know now it's like blazed into my memory. Last night I kept thinking, oh man, gotta keep remembering the name of this game. Just the first look into the book was about an hour, which that was pretty wild. Although that is a pretty big book. It's 320 plus pages, if I remember. So pretty sweet. Anyway, that's it for the news. I was just talking about DriveThruRPG. Don't forget, the gaming gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit, say, DriveThruRPG or Dungeon Masters Guild, Storytellers Vault, what have you, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do go a long way to keeping thegaminggang.com around. No joke. It really does on a month-to-month basis. Also should mention, there are some freebies for Halloween now. I noticed I got an email from One Bookshelf today, and it said, oh, be sure to stop by DriveThruRPG for your free treats. It's 6 PDFs. There's no scavenger hunt or anything like that. They're all located on one page. I think 2 of them have previously been given away in earlier Halloween sales at DriveThruRPG. Hey, at least they are doing some freebies, though. I think they were probably getting their ears bent by customers with, seriously, you're not going to do the scavenger hunt for Halloween? You've been doing it for years. Suddenly you're not going to do it? I wouldn't be surprised. Anyway, so, of course, thank you if you're out there and you do happen to stop by the One Bookshelf sites and you happen to use our banner ads. Really does help out. Also, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, by all means, please stop by paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. And yes, there are quite a few of you out there who follow the show, hang out and chat, and you do make not so small donations. That is highly, highly appreciated. So those of you who either use the banner ads or visit paypal.me/thegaminggang, thank you. Big tip of the cap to all of you out there. All righty then. Warren Rawlings says, I do not know anything, in caps, about RuneQuest. And hello, everyone. I like this show because of the frank point of view on the books. You help me make good choices about my game book collection. Well, thank you. I aim to please by being honest. It's telling you what I think, or if I don't know something, I say I don't know. I don't just gloss it over or anything like that. So we are going to dive on into RuneQuest, or I should say, Cults of RuneQuest, Mythology, in a few moments. If you have been following the channel, you know I've been going back and forth with Wizards of the Coast, and still did not see Planescape arrive today. I have heard nothing in reply to the last 3 emails I have sent. I mentioned this last night, so I'm now going to say I'm done covering Wizards of the Coast and 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. That's it. I'm finished. I just do not like being disrespected. I mean, that's really what it all feels like, is just total disrespect of not only myself and Sammy, other contributors we've had over the years, including Kevin R. Smith. Come back, Kevin. But the audience as well. And I think that's one of the things that bothers me the most, is it's obvious that Wizards of the Coast does not want any legitimate critique of their products anymore. That's what it is. That's why they've set up this D&D creators account for essentially who they feel are piss ants. And after, 13 years of covering Wizards of the Coast, Dungeons & Dragons did a little bit of Magic the Gathering way back in the day, but then they branched out with a different PR company. So that's it. Don't know what to tell you. If it shows up over the weekend, I don't know. I don't think it's going to change my mind as far as future coverage of Wizards of the Coast and 5e D&D. So having said that, it's important that you do understand that this does not mean I won't cover third-party products for 5e D&D, because those publishers haven't treated me poorly, right? I mean, let's be honest here. On the flip side, we've got companies like Chaosium Inc., Cubicle 7 Entertainment, Free League Publishing, Kobold Press, right? I just said they're sending the slipcase set. I think it's a slipcase set, but it's both volumes of Deep Magic. And keep in mind, every one of those publishers has received a negative review on one of their products from the gaming gang. Maybe not me personally, probably. But I know Sammy has done some negative reviews or less than stellar thoughts about certain products from various different publishers. Didn't bother them. They weren't like, oh, that's it. We're finished. I know they like a lot of our stuff, but that one review, forget it. No, because they understand that legitimate critiques, honest reviews, actually help them, and help them a lot. I have heard from many people who have watched a review back in the day when I did written reviews. They would read a review, and they've commented or emailed me and said, hey, you know, even though you weren't overly keen on XYZ, you pointed out, you know, who would like this or who it's really aimed at and things like that. And they're like, you know what? I'm that kind of person. I bought it. I understand what you said about it. I agree, but I like it more than you did and stuff like that. It's like, okay, that's fine. That's cool. Anyway, okay. So Jack Hanks says, I think he means me. The reason he got RuneQuest and Delta Green. Nice. Very nice. Hopefully you already have Call of Cthulhu in your collection alongside Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and then you should be all set. Kevin R. Smith says, yeah, they'd rather play to casuals instead of dedicated gamers, which is weird since they've been on this kick of bringing back old settings. Yeah, you know, but look at a lot of the stuff that Wizards of the Coast has done. Their shift in, how would I put this? The shift in like their attitude towards gamers has changed. It really has. And they actually kind of just look at it's like they want to just bring people who really have no interest in Dungeons and Dragons into the hobby because they think, well, shit, if we can sell them the trio of core books, well, we're set. Even though those same people might only buy one of the books and look through it and go, no, this isn't for me. They would rather focus on those people than on the people who put them where they're at. You know, the asses that were already in the seats. I don't know. Tessie Trekkie asks, did I miss Jeff no longer covering Wizards of the Coast? Hello, Tessie Trekkie. Yes, that is it. Zach McKinney says, Watsy just wants the quickest buck, not the consistent fan. And you know what? That is completely up to them. That is their prerogative. They could, that's fine. I think some folks out there thought I was just, you know, engaging in sour grapes because I wasn't getting a copy of Planescape ahead of time, like I always do. No. I mean, I did point out how that was going to be money out of my pocket because, incredibly enough, you may not realize this, I want to say out of the top 20 videos that I have ever done for this channel, and we're dating back to what, 2012, I think was the first time I did some video. Ugh. Oh, God. And not like this is, you know, fantastic or anything, but oh my goodness, this is like IMAX compared to that. All in all, I want to say 12 of the top 20 videos as far as views have been Dungeons and Dragons. So me saying, hey, I'm not going to cover Wizards of the Coast anymore. Yeah, that's going to cost me. So, but you know, it is what it is. Like I said, don't disrespect me. Don't disrespect me and do not take me for granted. That is something that is a huge issue with me. I always used to tell people, kindness is never mistake kindness for weakness. They're two absolutely different things. Tessie Trekkie said they got Delta Green before they got Call of Cthulhu, and they're glad they did. The modern setting resonates more with them. Yeah, I could see that. I could understand that. Zach McKinney says, yeah, I saw your first announcement on this topic. I went back, rewatched your 5e videos. I don't recall any overly harsh one. You were kinder to some books I loathe. I get it, but you know, as I pointed out, Wizards of the Coast, they want sycophants and shills. That's what they want, and they can have that. It's fine. You got to remember, there are a lot of publishers out there that I cover. So this is not a Dungeons and Dragons channel. I would hate to be one. I would hate to be a D&D channel and look to actually share legitimate reviews of the 5e D&D products. I don't see it. I would think those sorts of people, they're going in the pissant category, getting the D&D creators account. Yeah, they're right on top of things. But when we wrap up the show, what I'm going to be covering on Tuesday, which is Halloween, after this whole discussion of Wizards of the Coast, you're probably going to laugh at what we're going to be diving on into to take a look at on Tuesday. But we'll get to that when we get to that. All righty, so we're going to be diving on into Cults of RuneQuest Mythology in just a few moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
The Halloween experts at Magic Manor have everything you'll need this year, including actual character masks from famous motion pictures. And they can show you the proper application of makeup to impress that special someone. Magic Manor's professional hand-painted custom masks start as low as $250. This Halloween, remember Magic Manor. Wigs, masks, makeup, costumes, shockingly authentic. Magic Manor, East Wind Mall.
There's a vacancy at the Bates Motel.
Is that you?
No, it's Buzz McKenzie, and it could be you. Look for this display and enter Bud Light Psycho Sweepstakes to win a Bud Light party with Buzz McKenzie at the Psycho Mansion. You can even get a mug like Spud's at participating retailers. Wow!
That Spud is so cool, it's scary.
This volunteer doesn't drink Wilkins Instant Coffee.
I hope you know what you're doing.
Oh, I do.
I think you'll like this house.
Isn't this supposed to be haunted? Haunted? What an absurd idea.
So, I mean, what would a ghost be doing here? Haunted.
No other diet soft drink delivers the real cola taste of 1 calorie Diet Coke. The real one. It's lifting more and more spirits every day. The move is on to Diet Coke.
Welcome to the world of terror. When I'm not busy embalming bodies, which isn't often, I like to relax with some good family reading. Let me introduce you to my personal library of Fangoria, the leader in horror entertainment. What a fascinatingly hideous cover of Freddy Krueger. And devilishly candid reviews of the latest horror videos. And gloriously bloody color photos from the newest Friday the 13th. They're all here in Fangoria. Can I persuade you to subscribe?
This is Fango editor Tony Tupone asking you to enter the world of Fangoria. Only $12.49 for a special 6-month video subscription. Send check or money order to Fangoria Magazine, 475 Park Avenue South, New York, 10016.
Customers! Oh, let the dead bodies wait.
Scary kids, scary. In case you didn't notice, that Diet Coke commercial featured both Madeline Kahn, who in my opinion absolutely makes Young Frankenstein. Her frigid character is just hysterical. And Peter Cook. I was like, wow. And it took me a second. I was like, wait, because Peter Cook looked a little heavier than you would normally see him. But that was Peter Cook. I was like, oh my gosh, that was pretty wild. And I have to admit, I have never seen Phantasm, either one. And in high school, I had a friend of mine. In fact, I'm still friends with him. I just hardly ever hear from him outside of, like, you know, Facebook kind of stuff. My friend Daryl, it was one of his favorite horror movies. So Kevin R. Smith says, I thought that was Madeline Kahn, but I wasn't sure. Yep, that was her. That was her. All righty. A whole Halloween themed, well, except for sawing pumpkins in half. Everything else was Halloween themed in tonight's brief intermission. So tonight we are going to be diving on in and taking a first look at Cults of RuneQuest Mythology from Chaosium Inc. This is written by Greg Stafford and Jeff Richard. The 168-page hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $39.99, or you can grab just the PDF alone over at DriveThruRPG for $18.99. Kathy Evans enjoyed tonight's intermission. Thank you. Wish I could take more credit for it, but I just strung everything together. So let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got Cults of RuneQuest Mythology. Do want to mention before we dive on in that my friends over at Chaosium Inc. were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the gaming gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this coverage with you. These days, it's very, very important that you know that. This is also a rules agnostic book. Even though it is Cults of RuneQuest, and the prior two volumes had RuneQuest stat blocks and spells and things like that, this one does not. This is, I believe, just going to take in the entirety of the Gloranthan mythology and present it. Enter the time of myth and legend. Cults of RuneQuest Mythology is an indispensable history of the mythology of the storied and epic Bronze Age fantasy world of Glorantha. An explanation of myths and mythology and how it works in Glorantha. Dozen of Gloranthan myths ready to be reflected on your game table and to give further context to the mythical history of the world. It's a system-free book. Mythology is perfect for any RuneQuest player or game master, any fan of Glorantha, players of other role-playing games, and anyone with an interest in creative mythology. This supplement is an enhancement to Cults of RuneQuest. It is intended to provide a greater understanding of the rich and textured mythological world of Glorantha. Zach McKinney says, lore, lore, lore. Location, location, location. Let's jump on in. Should point out, we are not going to look at each and every page of mythology, but I do want to give you a very good feel for what you're going to find inside. So our artists, and I'm going to completely butcher their names, I apologize. Loic Musi, Agath Pate, and Simeon Cogswell. And the cover art, I will say Mr. Musi, because I'm not even sure how you would pronounce the first name. Hey, come on, you know me. It's all about mispronouncing stuff. Usually it's just fictional people, places, and things, but I get real things wrong too. I am an equal opportunity mispronouncer. So we've got our contents, introduction, the world, the monomyth, understanding mythology. We have mythic maps. We've got a catalog of the gods. So we'll have the Lightbringers and the Earth deities, Sky deities, Lunar deities, and I believe when they're talking about the Lunar deities, that is the Lunar Empire, who are sort of the big bads for the most part in most RuneQuest settings. Right off the bat in the foreword says, this book is not for everyone. It is those who wish to lead decent lives with a modicum of happiness and peace. We wish good for ourselves, our family, and for the world at large. You curious scholar are probably an urbanite educated among your contemporaries with a decent and reliable source of income. Many of you have children or will sometime. You may live within a week of travel from where you were born, though there's a good chance you live near where you were educated. You probably have met people of many social classes, including some petty nobles during your education. So you're talking about us personally, or are you talking about like, are we like in the game world here? There's our image of Greg Stafford, the late great Greg Stafford. What is mythology? Mythology reveals the nature of the soul. Despite our Enlightenment conceits to the contrary, humanity is not so far removed from our Pleistocene roots, and we have never been much interested in objective explanations of the obvious. Instead, we have an imperative need to assimilate all outer sense experiences to inner psychic events. It is not enough to see the sun rise and set. This external observation must, at the same time, be a psychic happening. The sun, in its course, must represent the fate of a god or hero. The sun rises and sets each day because the sun god was murdered in the god time and then resurrected with the dawn. I mean, isn't that how it really works? What are you trying to tell us? What is the god time? God time is a key concept in Glorantha mythology. It exists prior to time and is when the mythological events that created and defined the cosmos took place. Mythical events prior to time were non-sequential and simultaneous, not subject to the order of lineal or cyclical time. Very nice. It's pretty cool. One thing I tell people is that there is a misconception that the RuneQuest setting is overly complex, that you really need to take a deep dive. Oh, here is that piece of artwork. Very nice. This is the actual real piece of artwork is huge. So this actually shows, I don't know if it's all of the deities, but a great many of the deities in Glorantha. That's kind of cool. Thing is, I would have probably preferred this if this was something that was a pullout, but it's not. It doesn't look like it is. That's too bad. Anyway, as I was saying, that there's a misconception that in order to play RuneQuest or to run RuneQuest, nudity. Bronze Age nudity. Oh, that's it. Oh, they're going to ban the channel now. Look out. Anyway, there are people that feel that in order to play or run RuneQuest, you have to be completely enmeshed in the setting and mythology and all of that. No. Just like the Cults of RuneQuest books that are coming out. First two are out. In fact, I have reviews of them in the can. I just have not shared them yet with the Lightbringers and the Earth Goddesses. And I'll cheat and I'll let you know. They're excellent. It's what we've come to expect from Chaosium Inc. As far as, I mean, when was the last time we saw something from Chaosium Inc. that wasn't at least really good? It's been quite a long time. But you can utilize what you want, leave out what you don't. And one of the aspects of many of the like early adventures for RuneQuest that you can still pick up in PDF pretty easily over at like DriveThruRPG is the fact that you're looking at just a tiny portion of the world and you can focus on that. You don't need to know everything that's going on in all of these other regions of Glorantha. You just need to focus on where your player characters are, and you can just easily just start to learn various different things about Glorantha as you go. But I'll be the first to admit, I don't know everything about this setting. I know little bits and pieces, but once again, as I point out to a lot of people, I don't focus on just one role-playing game. So unfortunately, at times, I've got a lot of role-playing content from various different games bouncing around in my head. I definitely like this artwork too. This is pretty cool. I think we actually get another view of this, because I have seen just this piece of artwork before, but not whereas it's like on the side of a ridge or something. It's just the actual image. So here we've got different myths. So it looks like it's giving us the source of the myth. The 10 copper plates of Euthipa. The heavens corrupted. Death and the soul. So there you go. It's going to tell you what happens when you die in the world of Glorantha. Not in our world. Nobody's going to be able to tell you that one. So here we've got the Lightbringer's Quest. So it tells us our source is the Johnstown Library. The path of the Lightbringer's Quest is long, and there are many versions of it. Most have the most significant facts in common, and this description deals only with those aspects of the quest. They agree that there are 5 major parts or stages to the Lightbringer's Quest. And in the second volume of Cults of RuneQuest, the Lightbringers, you'll actually get far more detail. What happens in sacred time? Another myth. I have to say, the artwork in RuneQuest books are always, is always pretty impressive. There we go. Flaming Heron says, some would say otherwise, Jeff. Yes, I know. I know. I understand what faith is, but faith is not fact. So until we have somebody who actually comes back from the dead to tell us what it was like, I think the jury's out. That's just me. Just me. So we've got the sky gods, the gods in history. So this portion is still understanding the mythology. Then we get mythic maps. These maps aid in understanding how Gloranthan mythology fits together and describe many of the important mythological locations and events of the monomyth. They are not maps of past history so much as the underpinnings of time itself. They can be used to help create new myths or even new cults. And then it's giving us the sources. So we got the golden age of Glorantha. Scholars claim the golden age was over 15,000 years ago. Although what that even means in the eternal God time is subject to question and debate. Many races and beings grew in the golden age, filling all creation with their existence and bustle. The size of the cosmos was far smaller during the early golden age, but it expanded as it filled up. All lived in peaceful harmony, overseen by a benevolent bureaucracy embodying the tranquility of the age. Well, we know that didn't last. Oh, Fleming Aaron says, "Oh, I was thinking more of people who've had near-death experiences." I don't know. I got to be honest. I've heard some stuff about how they can explain near-death experiences. So, as someone who has been put under for my triple bypass, I didn't have any near-death experiences, but I had some odd experiences during the waking up portion of it, which thankfully the anesthesia kind of messes with your memory too, so you don't remember all of it, which thankfully is the case. So here we've got the late lesser darkness. These are very cool. These are very interesting looking. I got to be honest though, I wish they were a little bigger. Flaming Heron says, I remember being put under, which isn't pleasant. Yeah, the thing that I thought was pretty well was how fast it was. Kevin R. Smith says, and nobody has come back from the actual official medical definition of death. Except for Dracula. I mean, that's a given. So we've got the Gray Age. And then it looks like we get a breakdown of like characteristics of that era. As well as it looks like we've got important events as well as important factions. Then we've got our catalog of the gods. Looks like we're going to go through each of the pantheons and just get a little brief mention. So as an example, in the Lightbringers, it's just giving us just essentially a paragraph about each of the gods. If I remember correctly, this is actually also in the Lightbringers volume, which of course goes into far, far more detail. So the madman says, I must be an oddity because I come out of anesthesia pretty quickly and remember everything leading up to going under. I remember the conversation and then the conversation ends. It's like, so we've got the sky deities, darkness deities, genealogies of beasts, and a discussion of formats that, or I should say, universal cult formats. So we get name, we get their runes, mythos and history, before time, since time, other world home, life after death. Hey, that's the topic of our discussion. Nature of the cult, reason for its continued existence, social, political position and power, particular likes and dislikes. And of course, we get into a lot of detail about this in the other volumes, which focus on a particular pantheon. Sarah D is with us. Good to see you, Sarah. Mentioned her cousin Vinny, no, just her cousin, comes out of anesthesia swinging. It's in her medical chart to restrain her before she wakes. That is something that is actually very common. In fact, when I was brought out from the triple bypass, I was restrained, but I wasn't like freaking out. But yeah, I've heard that. In fact, they were talking about it before, they took me. The anesthesiologist was discussing that, saying that, when you wake up, you're probably going to be restrained. Try not to freak out. And I thought to myself, well, if I'm just waking up, how am I going to be like, oh no, hold on there, Jeff. Let's not be freaking out about this. But I didn't. I woke up and I was like, oh, okay. And the nurse was in there and talked to me, and I was shaking my head and that, nodding. The breathing tube was out, thankfully. That was the thing that I was concerned about. I did not want to wake up with that thing in my mouth. So here we've got cult distribution. This is cool. Depending on the various different regions. And we have tables here. We can actually roll percentile dice if we wanted to generate those. Madman says they've never had major surgery, just minor surgery. Flaming Heron says they remember being unreasonable. Surprised he wasn't restrained. Right, then we got an index. This is interesting. I always find RuneQuest stuff really, really interesting. I can't necessarily say that I would run RuneQuest. I got to be honest. If I'm running a D100 role-playing game that's built on basic role-playing, it's going to be Call of Cthulhu. So, but man, I am always so impressed by all the work that Greg Stafford invested into this setting, not just as a game, but as a world, because originally Glorantha was supposed to be a setting for novels that Stafford was going to write. And then that just didn't come about. So nicely, nicely done. And of course, I'm going to have a review of Cults of RuneQuest Mythology in the very near future. As I had already mentioned, stay tuned because I will have both reviews of the volumes 2 and 3 of Cults of RuneQuest up on the channel before you see me next on the live show. So essentially this weekend or late this week. Alrighty, that is Cults of RuneQuest Mythology from Chaosium Inc. Once again, this is written by Greg Stafford and Jeff Richard. Big shout out to Jeff Richard because he has really picked up the ball following the passing of Greg Stafford and just done some real yeoman's work with RuneQuest. This 168-page hardcover with PDF, if you order from Chaosium Inc. or any of their bits and mortar partners, carries an MSRP of $39.99, or you can grab just the PDF alone or at DriveThruRPG for $18.99. All righty then. So what's cooking next week? Well, do want to mention that on Saturday, I'm supposed to receive a package from Pinnacle Entertainment Group, which is supposed to contain Savage Worlds Adventure Edition, Deadlands, I think it's the box set, as well as Pathfinder 4 Savage Worlds. But we are not going to be taking a look at them next week. We are going to actually take a look at them in a couple of weeks because I am going to actually dedicate the entire week to Savage Worlds. So we will take a look at the Adventurer Edition, or I should say Adventure Edition. I always want to call it Adventurer Edition, but that's not it. It's Adventure Edition. So we'll take a look at that on the Tuesday, then on the Wednesday, either the Pathfinder or Deadlands, and then the last on the Thursday. So once again, we'll have an entire week dedicated to Savage Worlds. So, remember I was talking about Wizards of the Coast and the disrespect and all these other things. And I mean, once again, whatever. It's not like, suddenly I'm like, that's it, forget it, man. So, Flaming Aaron says, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay Week and Savage Worlds Week. Remember, the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay stuff are review videos. There's going to be a bunch of review videos. I'm not actually covering Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay on the live show. So there you go. The Madman says, yes! Flaming Heron says, the Madman literally has a heart attack. Well, yeah, there you go. Now you'll have major surgery. No. So anyway, so I had mentioned this the other day that I had gotten an email from the PR company that reps Avalon Hill, who is owned by Hasbro, just like Wizards of the Coast. And up until fairly recently, Wizards of the Coast also handled Avalon Hill. So Avalon Hill was, even though it was its own branding, it was still run by Wizards of the Coast, which is no longer the case. So they had reached out and asked me, let me repeat that. They reached out and asked me if I'd be interested in reviewing the latest edition of, what the hell is it called? House on the Hill. Horror, what is it? Horror on House on the Hill or something. Thing that always throws me off on that game is it should be the House on the Hill, not House on the Hill. Anyway, so they've got a new edition. I think it's the 3rd edition, but they also have, oh, there we go. Thank you, Kevin. Betrayal at House on the Hill. They also have a holiday expansion, a Christmas holiday expansion that's going to be coming out. And they asked if I would share coverage of it. And I said, yeah, sure. So I get this box today. And it says, to Jeff from Jingle Claws, and it's KLAWS. So I had to chuckle because it's like, okay, so on one hand, Wizards of the Coast is like, fuck this guy. And then another division of Hasbro is like, hey, would you consider taking a look? It's like, okay. So we're going to take a look at this on Halloween. I think it's fairly appropriate, right? Okay, yes, granted, we're going to have the, the Christmas horror expansion, but still. So we've got that. Then, next Wednesday, we're going to have a War Game Wednesday. We're going to take a look at The Other Side of the Hill, which is coming to Kickstarter from NAC War Games. And this looks, I have not taken a peek inside. When I do first looks in that, it's legit. I say it all the time. It's as much a surprise to me as it is to you. But this looks really impressive. And from my understanding, the players each take on a member of the German High Command during World War II. And this is a hefty box. So that is going to be on Wednesday. And then the fine folks over at Talon Strike Studios reached out and asked me if I'd take a peek at the new 2-player edition of Vinyl. You may remember I shared coverage of that. It's a game where each of the players are like record collectors. Actually, it's a neat game. So it also includes the expansion for the holidays, the winter holidays. So I'm like, but that's not what we're going to look at. We're going to hold off on that. We'll take a look at that in a little later in November, once again, because it's got the holiday expansion to it. So we're going to actually take a look at Shadow Network. And this is another box that is like really, really hefty. I mean, I could knock somebody out if I threw this at their head. So that will be a week from tonight. So all next week, we are going to be taking a look at board games. But I am still focusing more on role-playing games than on board games. So hopefully all of you realize that. I've mentioned that a few times, that you're going to see fewer and fewer board games. Okay, maybe I should put it this way. You will see fewer and fewer board game publishers getting video coverage. And I'm going to try to trim down, because at this point right now, it's kind of like if I get a company that reaches out and it's something that looks like I'd be interested in, or my audience would be interested in, I'll say, yeah, sure, okay, send a copy. A lot of times there's people contacting me and they're like, hey, would you take a look at this game? And I'll take a peek and I'll be like, gotta be honest. I mean, it's not really, my audience isn't gonna be like interested in that. So yeah, why send me a review copy if it's not gonna provide any bang for the buck? So that's how I look at it. I'm not one of these people where it's like, oh yeah, send it to me so I can throw it in the collection. Alrighty, William Hellizice has joined us. Good to see you, William. Haven't seen him in a while. I think I have said hello to everybody who was hanging out in chat. If I missed anybody, I apologize. So that is it for this time out. That is it for this week. So if you're watching live, thank you very much. If you're watching live and took part in chat, I know all that typing and stuff. Tip of the cap to you, because of course, you're not only keeping me company, you keep each other company while I'm doing an unboxing of a board game or paging through an RPG book. But of course, I know a lot of you out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for taking time out to watch any of the videos here on the Gaming Gang channel. And of course, if you like this video, give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Central, right here on YouTube. It'll also let you know when I upload other videos, such as my recent review of Pathfinder, The Summer That Never Was, part 1 of the Season of Ghost Adventure Path. And I'll clue you in, I like this a lot. So there you have it. Everybody out there, enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend. I will be back on Halloween. Yes. And we're going to take a look at, thanks to Kevin once again, Betrayal at House on Hill. No, it's House on the Hill. It should be Betrayal at the House on the Hill. I guess nobody cares about grammar. They didn't care about it back in the 70s either. And we'll also be taking a peek at that holiday murder expansion or whatever. Yes. Flaming Heron says, on the hill? No? Yes, it is. It is Betrayal at House on the Hill. I don't know. I haven't opened that box. I will not be opening that box until Tuesday. So, I mean, there could be poison gas in it. We won't find out until Tuesday. Better not be poison gas in it. All righty, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. And of course, until I see you next time, here's hoping all of you out there get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.